Good day. My name is David Wild, and this is part two of a lecture on Chapter 5 on Globalization from Connect Master Management 2.0. Let's begin this part of the lecture talking about moving from internationalization to globalization. Whereas globalization is defined as the increased interaction and integration of different nationalities on many levels, the concept of internationalization is the process of an organization crossing national borders for the first time to do business. Figure 2 from your text, which you see on your screen, looks at the various forms of global business and the progression that many organizations go through in increasing their participation in global business activities. We will talk about each of those various forms of going about doing global business here. First, there is importing and exporting. Organizations may choose to import their resources or export their final products to other companies in foreign markets. Importing resources usually occurs if the materials can be acquired less expensively than in other countries than in the home country. Exporting is considered to be a viable method of opening up new markets for a company's existing products. In both cases, companies will import or export if the international market provides more opportunities to access much needed resources at a lower cost or to sell their products at a higher profit than they can find in their domestic markets. Outsourcing. This involves some contracting with outside vendors to provide specific services that were previously done in-house. Many organizations choose to outsource some facet of their operations, i.e., customer service, to outside firms in order to take advantage of lower labor costs, an English-speaking population, or other factors. Outsourcing customer service activities allows U.S. firms to contain cost while focusing on other core activities stateside that provide competitive advantage. Offshoring. Whereas outsourcing involves contracting with outside firms to assist in a part of the company's operations, offshoring involves sourcing work to other countries, which may include working with a third party or basing part of the company's operations overseas. Often this happens due to overregulation or high labor cost in the home country. Franchising. Instead of undertaking all the risk of doing business in foreign countries, some organizations may choose to use franchising to distribute their products in other countries. Franchising is the process in which companies provide foreign businesses with a complete package of materials and services to use in exchange for a fee. A joint venture is a business entity created by two or more separate parties in which the parties share ownership and responsibility for the new entity. This type of business sometimes occurs when countries have restrictions on foreign ownership of capital within their borders. Thus, the only way an organization can do business in that country is to agree to a joint venture with a local organization. Some advantages of joint ventures include a better understanding of the business environment within the host country, access to more capital, sharing risk and cost, and the opportunity to build network relationships within the host country. There are also disadvantages to entering into a joint venture in another country. These include restricted flexibility, cultural issues, unreliable business partners, and differing business objectives. A final way of doing this is through what is known as a wholly owned foreign subsidiary. This is where the parent company owns the entire foreign company. The subsidiary may operate independently of the parent organization, but the parent organization controls the strategic planning and direction of the foreign company. Wholly owned subsidiaries that the parent company does not buy but builds from scratch are called greenfield ventures and pose the most risk in terms of cost and investments. Compared to other forms of internationalization, wholly owned subsidiaries involve the most commitment from the parent company. So, in summary, in looking at how organizations move from internationalization to globalization, there are different levels of internationalization that companies pursue in an effort to expand their business globally. These approaches go from low risk to high risk. International activities such as importing and exporting, outsourcing, and offshoring are less risky than franchising, joint ventures, or wholly owned subsidiaries. And finally, making the leap from less risky foreign activities to riskier ones takes both time and capital investment. Next, let's look at worldwide events as they affect the companies. Many world events have impacted international business over the last 25 years. Some of these major worldwide events include technology, shifting ideologies, terrorism, and trade agreements. And here's a note. Your textbook was published before the COVID-19 pandemic. So certainly a pandemic and the potential for this pandemic or a like pandemic would be a factor on par with these worldwide events discussed in your textbook. So first, let's look at technology. The creation of the internet and subsequently social media have brought the world closer together than ever before. Today, technology keeps pushing the boundaries for communications, transactions, and sales. As new organizations enter the global arena, how they utilize technology will go a long way in determining their ultimate success or failure. Next, let's talk about shifting ideologies. Global capitalism has reached traditionally isolated economies in both Central Europe and the Far East. Today, with more than 30 years of economic development, Central Europe now possesses some of the most vibrant, transformative economies in the whole world. In China, the economy had been dormant for many years due to decades of isolationism and communist rule. But what happens when capitalistic principles are combined with a strongly monitored national economy? China and much of the Far East has seen an economic boom, the likes of which we have never seen before. Terrorism is the premeditated utilization of a threat of violence to attain a social or political objective. Terrorism has not only had an impact on the global environment due to human safety and risk, but it has also fueled a multi-billion-dollar industry in security and forever changed the way people travel and do business. Next, let's turn our attention to trade pacts and alliances. As globalization increased trade around the world, trade barriers have fallen proportionally. Tariffs, which are taxes on imported goods, and import quotas, which are limits on the number of goods coming into a specific country, as well as other barriers, have been reduced or eliminated to facilitate trade between organizations in different countries. One of the most effective ways of removing economic barriers is through the use of trade pacts, also called trade agreements, between countries and other organizations. Major trade pacts today include the European Union, NAFTA, APEC, and OPEC. Let's talk a bit about each of those here. The European Union. More than 60 years ago, the European community was formed by 6 countries that started to cooperate economically. As more countries joined the alliance, the organization evolved into the European Union in 1992. Today, the EU, as it is known, consists of 28 member nations and has sought to eliminate tariffs between member countries to ratify a single currency across the region, which has yet to happen, and create a European Commission that would oversee the activities across the member countries. NAFTA. In 1994, the United States' answer to the European Union was NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. This trade bloc includes the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Unlike the European Union agreement, NAFTA did not seek to create a new currency or government over the three member nations. Instead, it sought to remove about 99% of all tariffs across the three countries. NAFTA allowed for the flow of goods, capital, labor, and services across borders. A revised version of NAFTA, now called the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, or USMCA, has been negotiated and is now in place between the three countries. APEC. The Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Agreement, or APEC, was established in 1989 and consists of 21 member countries. The multilateral trade bloc sought to establish new markets for agricultural products and reduce or eliminate tariffs and quotas among its members. Like NAFTA, APEC was the Asian Pacific answer to the European Union that formed in 1992. APEC's member countries include Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, China, South Korea, Indonesia, Japan, Philippines, Hong Kong, Brunei, Papua New Guinea, Australia, New Zealand, Chinese Taipei or Taiwan, Russia, the United States, Canada, Mexico, Chile, and Peru. And finally, OPEC. OPEC stands for the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. It was originally formed in 1960 and now consists of 14 members. OPEC's mission is to coordinate and unify petroleum policies among the member governments, to stabilize oil markets while securing a consistent supply of petroleum to its customers. The 14 member countries of OPEC include Algeria, Venezuela, Ecuador, Angola, Equatorial Guinea, Iraq, Iran, Libya, Nigeria, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, the Congo, and Gabon. And so, in summary, in talking about worldwide events, increasing technology, shifting ideologies, international terrorism, and various trade pacts and alliances are just some of the worldwide events that can impact global management. Domestically, these events may prove significant and change the strategic direction and planning of any organization. Internationally, managers must be aware of current worldwide events and make accommodations for these events if they are going to execute a successful international strategy. And with that, we'll end the second part of our lecture on globalization.